Hey guys, it's the Dude Starite, and like always, it is a massive honor to have you guys back on the channel. Before I continue with my traditional intro, I just want to go ahead and take some time to thank you guys real quick, because my last video, the WilliamAfton video, that video where I explained the story of WilliamAfton, that video is getting tons of support. I'm loving the comments, I'm loving the likes, I'm loving the views, I'm loving any kind of support you guys are giving that video. It's blowing my freaking mind. Thank you so freaking much. It really touches me that you guys love that video, and I hope you guys can show the same love to this video. You know, like, subscribe, whatever you guys want to do to support. I am appreciative of it. Just keep that love flowing, man. I love it. I love it. I love it a lot, and just thank you guys so much for everything. Getting back on track here. In my previous video, I covered the overall story of WilliamAfton and talked about all the tragedies he was connected to, all the pain he's caused, and even his life after he reanimated as the monstrosity we know as Springtrap. But in this video, I'm going to be covering a character who is just as important as WilliamAfton himself, his son, MichaelAfton. Even though I did mention Michael a few times in the WilliamAfton video, that was only a small smudge of his entire story, and he actually holds a lot, and I mean a lot, more weight when it comes to the entire story of Five Nights at Freddy's. So without further ado, sit back, relax, and allow me to explain Five Nights at Freddy's main protagonist, MichaelAfton. As many of you know, Michael is one of WilliamAfton's 3 children, with Michael being the oldest of his 2 younger siblings, Elizabeth Afton and the unnamed crying child. Back in 1983, when Michael was nothing but a small teenager, he was kind of like one of those typical older brother bullies. You know, think of Roger Heffley from Diary of a Wimpy Kid. Yeah, pretty much he was like him. Michael spent his time bullying his younger brother, and how he would do this is that he would wear a foxy mask, and he would scare his brother around the house, and sometimes he would even lock him in his own room. And he would only do this because he knew his younger brother was scared of the animatronics at their father's establishment, Fredbear's Family Diner. With it being clear as day that Michael had nothing better to do with his life, the constant cycle of harassment would come to an abrupt end on one fateful day. The birthday of Michael's younger brother finally came around, and it was actually being held at their father's own restaurant, Fredbear's Family Diner. But unfortunately, the poor kid couldn't catch a break on his own birthday because Michael gathered his friends around, and they continued to harass him even on his one special day. Right after cornering the poor kid, Michael and his friends decided to take the harassment to a whole nother level, and devised a plan to lift the child up to Fredbear's mouth so he could give him a kiss. Despite the desperate cries of Michael's younger brother, the teenagers successfully got the poor kid's head in Fredbear's mouth, and they were getting good laughs out of it. It was all fun and giggles up until Fredbear's mouth crunched down on the poor child's head. It was in that moment when everything suddenly stopped. The moment of realization kicked in that they really screwed up. This is the catastrophic event that us fans dubbed as the Bite of 83. And right after this catastrophic incident, Fredbear's Family Diner closed down, and Michael's younger brother was rushed to the hospital, barely clinging on to life. Even though the crying child eventually passed away from his injuries, Michael was able to genuinely apologize for what he did, and he seemed awfully guilty for what he did to him on his own birthday. It's very fascinating how he was able to quickly mature in that moment, knowing that he really messed up. It's like he took responsibility. That's what I like. He quickly took responsibility and apologized for what he did at a moment which would have been too late if he hadn't apologized any sooner than he did. Before I start getting into Michael's next step after enduring that traumatic event, let's set our mind in the 1990s, or maybe even, if you want to estimate a little further, early 2000s. I'm talking 2001 to 2005. You know, if you want to estimate there, let's go there, but let's put our minds in the 1990s to the early 2000s. Around this time period, WilliamAfton's restaurant chain, famously known as Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, was on its last leg due to ongoing investigations, missing person reports, you know, health code violations, and basically Fazbear Entertainment decided to open up one last Freddy Fazbear's Pizza location in a desperate attempt to stay in business. Michael actually ended up getting a job as a security guard at this Freddy's location under the name Mike Schmidt. Now, when he got the job at Freddy's, I'm not sure why he ended up changing his name from Mike Afton to Mike Schmidt, but just know that it is most definitely the same person, and you'll get more and more proof as I explain his story as this video goes forward. But moving on, it is actually unknown why Michael took the job at Freddy's until the security logbook came out. Now, what the security logbook is to us in the real world, it's an activity book that was released by Scott Cawthon. You know, a book where we can draw in, engage with activities, solve puzzles, and, you know, just basic stuff that you would do with an activity book. But this book is actually massive canon material, and in the universe of FNAF, this is a logbook that's given to security guards that take the job at Freddy's. And in this security logbook, we learn that Michael was the one who previously owned the book, and we also learn that Michael took the job at Freddy's because he just wanted free because he wanted free pizza. But even though Michael joined the Fazbear family for the sole purpose of getting free pizza, he had a lot more that was in store for him. You see, Michael works the night shift, and he was instructed to watch over the location, make sure nothing bad happens, and watch over all of the precious animatronics that were held inside of that place. Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy. But as Michael watched over them each night, he would notice suspicious movement coming from each one of the animatronics. And the movement coming from these animatronics would quickly go from suspicious to overall violent and aggressive. You see, each night the animatronics would either individually or simultaneously attempt to get in Michael's office and harm him. The company who owns this location, Fazbear Entertainment, tried to come up with an explanation for this and say that the animatronics will identify you as an endoskeleton and will try to stuff you into one of the spare suits in the back, you know, but that explanation is just wrong in so many ways, and I'll explain why in a moment. You see, back in the mid-1980s, Fazbear Entertainment decided to open up Freddy Fazbear's Pizza for the very first time. Sometime after this pizzeria opened, a horrible discovery was made, and a child's body was found at the side of a building, rotting next to the decommissioned security puppet that was seemingly created to watch over them. Even though this incident was not taken lightly, this definitely wasn't enough to put Freddy's out of business. That was until another incident took place. A twisted individual disguised as an animatronic to blend in with the mascots present at the location and lured 5 children to a back room, and those 5 children were never seen or heard from ever again. Utilizing the security footage to the best of their ability, the police were able to identify the man and capture him the next morning. Even though the authorities believe they caught the person responsible for the 5 missing children, they are awfully mistaken, and the real killer behind all of this was right in front of their faces the entire time. The twisted individual who lured those 5 children was none other than WilliamAfton, the co-founder of Fazbear Entertainment. WilliamAfton killed those 5 children and stuffed their bodies into each of the 5 animatronics present at that location: Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy. After doing this, there would be reports of blood, mucus, a lot of gross stuff coming out of the suits, and he eventually properly disposed of the bodies. But unfortunately, while their bodies were disposed of, the souls of those children latched onto those suits and haunted them ever since. These spirits are super vengeful, and even though they've been on the hunt for William for Lord knows how long, they are more than willing to exact their vengeance on the night guards that watch over them every night. This is why the main cast of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza have been desperately trying to get into the office of MichaelAfton. I just wanted to take a moment to explain what Michael wasn't aware of when he was working at Freddy's, because in his perspective, he's like, why are they tweaking? I'm just trying to enjoy my pizza. Why are they trying to get in my freaking office? You know, that's pretty much his perspective, but he doesn't know that he's literally suffering the consequences of what his father did many years ago. Let me give you guys a speculation warning real quick, because what I'm about to tell you, I really feel like it lines up with how the animatronics are portrayed in the death screens of the FNAF games. You know, the death screens where, you know, when they kill you, they stuff your body inside of animatronic suits in the parts and service room. You know that? So I really feel like when Phone Guy says this to, like, you know, explain what the animatronics do when they get in your office, I really feel like that's kind of like of a lack of knowledge. They don't know why they do that, so they're kind of like trying to make stuff up, you know. And they even made up a story for why they move around in the night, like a night mode. No, that's not a night mode. The animatronics are possessed, and the spirits are trying to roam free and do their own thing. So since they made an excuse for that, I feel like the excuse they made for them stuffing your bodies in the suits was that they see you as an endoskeleton. But what I really think is happening is, you see how William killed those children? He basically killed them, then stuffed their bodies inside of the suits right after that, right? And I feel like, considering how vengeful these children are, I feel like the way they're killing these night guards is simply a, what do you call it? A projection. A matter of projection. that's how they were killed, so now they're taking the lives of other night guards that way. Now, while they do know who WilliamAfton is and they recognize him, they're still killing the night guards in that exact same way. And even though William hasn't exactly been spotted by them yet, they're still kind of, you know, carrying out that kind of revenge that they would have exacted on William if they ran into him. So yeah, that's my speculation. Nothing too big. I just wanted to let that out there. I'm just saying that I feel like the reason why they stuff you in the suits is because they're kind of like, you know what I mean? You know, like an eye for an eye kind of a thing. And that's their way of getting you back, even though you weren't the one that killed them. That's pretty much how they roll. So, speculation over. I just wanted to get that out there. Separate that from everything I just told you, unless it helps you digest the story a lot easier. With that being said, let's move on with the video. Alright, so far, I have explained to you guys what is happening in Michael's general surroundings. Like, what's happening as Michael works his shifts at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. However, there's another thing taking place, but it's not taking place around Michael. It's kind of taking place inside of his own head. It is unknown if what I'm about to tell you is taking place during Michael's shift or when he gets home from his shift, but it is very much happening during the events of Five Nights at Freddy's 1 by itself. Basically, while Michael was working at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, he found himself having awful nightmares about his past. Nightmares that are connected to the most traumatic event of his entire life, the bite of '83. His brother's death that he had to witness with his own 2 eyes. Five Nights at Freddy's 4 gameplay mainly consists of you playing as a defenseless child, looking through each one of your doors, making sure there's no nightmares down the hallway, checking your bed, checking your closet. You're basically being hunted by monstrous creatures that are greatly resembling the animatronics that we all know and love. And a lot of people, including myself, believe that the defenseless child that we were playing as during Five Nights at Freddy's 4 was Michael's younger brother, the crying child. Now, before I continue explaining this traumatic nightmare, allow me to make some parallels to let you guys know that this is in fact Michael going through the events of Five Nights at Freddy's 4. Notice the parallels. 2 doors. Bonnie's on the left, Chica's on the right, Freddy sneaks in, Foxy finds his own way in. If that didn't convince you enough, take a listen to this background ambience noise from the main gameplay. Now I'm going to take this ambience noise and reverse it and heighten the pitch. That there is the voice of Phone Guy, the person who's been calling Mike before every shift. Unless the crying child came back from the dead and worked a few shifts at Freddy's to hear this phone call, then I don't see how this could possibly be him. It's undoubtedly Michael who was enduring these nightmares. Now that I got that out the way, let's move on and get more in depth when it comes to this nightmare Michael is having. Now, it's very clear that this nightmare is stemming from the bite of '83. Fredbear's bulky and terrifying appearance, the other animatronic stalking him, literally Foxy making the same noise that Michael made when he used to scare his brother with the Foxy mask. It's all coming full circle. This is all a nightmare made to taunt Michael in his dreams. It's all of his guilt piling on top of him as time goes over. I'm guessing during the events of FNAF 1, it's very clear that Michael has never really gotten over what he did to his brother. But that's as far as these nightmares go, really. We play as Michael during the main gameplay loop of Five Nights at Freddy's 4, but in the mini-games we play as his younger brother, the crying child, and we get to learn what he was going through all the way up until he died during the bite of '83. With that chapter closed, let's get back to how Michael did on his last days at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. Michael managed to survive the rest of his shifts despite the animatronics' growing aggression throughout the nights, and he eventually got fired due to tampering with the animatronics and really bad odor. I'm sorry, that's really funny to me. And there are so many theories as to why he could have been tampering with the animatronics. We don't even know if he actually did tamper with them, but he got fired for that. So yeah, he got out of there and, you know, he lost his job. No more free pizza. Shortly after Michael lost his job at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, Freddy Fazbear's Pizza as a whole closed for good. It closed permanently after Michael ended up losing his job there. And this is when William, the person who used to own that restaurant, ended up making his own restaurant called Circus Baby's Pizza World. And then that would later become Circus Baby's Party and Rentals, where people could rent out animatronics during the day for private birthday parties and what might have you. This place held the charismatic and autonomous Funtime animatronics, Circus Baby, Ballora, Funtime Freddy, and Funtime Foxy. He was very proud of his creations. most notably Circus Baby, who was made in honor of his only daughter, WilliamAfton. Elizabeth really wanted to see Circus Baby by herself and, just completely gloss over her glory, her freaking red hair and shiny exterior. She was very amazed by Circus Baby, but William, knowing what the function of these animatronics are, he never allowed her to get too close. Unfortunately, Elizabeth managed to sneak off while WilliamAfton was caught off guard and went to go see Circus Baby by herself. Circus Baby, executing her normal programming, managed to lure Elizabeth even closer with ice cream, and once she got close enough, she managed to use the built-in claw in her stomach to grab Elizabeth and snatch her inside of her own body. This immediately crushed and killed Elizabeth on the spot. Shortly after dying inside of Circus Baby, Elizabeth's soul would end up trapped inside of this advanced animatronic, and Circus Baby's eyes went from blue to green, just as Elizabeth's eyes were before she was killed. But despite everything, William knew exactly what phenomenon was at play and knew that his daughter's soul was stuck inside the animatronic that he created with his own 2 hands. After learning that Elizabeth's soul was trapped inside of Circus Baby, William actually enlisted the help of his son, Michael, to take a job as a technician at his establishment, go down in the underground facility that's holding the Funtime animatronics, and free his sister from Circus Baby once and for all. Michael, who I'm sure really loves his sister, got straight to the job and immediately embarked on his journey to go down in that facility. As Michael traversed the underground facility in search of his sister, he found himself in a lot of life or death situations. For some reason, that I will explain later, the Funtime animatronics began to hunt Michael down individually. And each time he found himself in a moment of life or death, a voice from the intercom, a very calm and soothing voice coming from the intercom, would instruct Michael exactly how to avoid each Funtime animatronic.
I don't recognize you. You are new. I remember this scenario, however. It's a strange thing to want to do, to come here. I'm curious what events would lead a person to want to spend their nights in a place like this. Willingly. Maybe curiosity. Maybe ignorance. There is a space under the desk. Someone before you crafted it into a hiding place, and it worked for him. I recommend that you hurry, though. You will be safe there. Just try not to make eye contact. It will be over soon. They will lose interest.
This voice is Circus Baby, Elizabeth Afton. Since Michael knows that his little sister is trapped in Circus Baby, and Circus Baby was able to help him escape literally every situation where he could have died, Circus Baby effectively gained Michael's trust. After helping Michael escape the Funtime animatronics and gaining his trust, Circus Baby eventually led Michael to the scooping room, a room that is made specifically for taking apart the exoskeletons of the Funtime animatronics. Even though the voice of Circus Baby is what led Michael to this room, if you look beyond the field of glass over there, you can see that there's someone behind this glass that doesn't look anything like Circus Baby. This entity is known as Ennard. You see, once Circus Baby led Michael into the scooping room, she reveals that this was their plan all along. And the reason why they devised this plan is because they desperately want to escape the facility that's holding them. Circus Baby explains that they've tried to escape many times, but they've always found themselves back in that same location. So they made a plan: lead someone into the scooping room, use the scooper to scoop their guts open, and use their wiry-like endoskeleton to slip inside of the body of that human and take control of their body so that they could properly disguise as a person and walk out of the facility scot-free. And you're probably wondering, how are they going to enter one singular person's body with all of their endoskeletons? That's going to take a lot of work, right? Well, that's why they devised the final act of their plan. Before leading the unlucky human to the scooping room, the Funtime animatronics took turns entering the scooping room so they could have their exoskeletons removed individually. Once they all had their endoskeletons scooped out, they all merged their endoskeletons into one being. This is what creates Ennard. And while the Funtime animatronics do share one body now, they don't share one mind, and the consciousness of Funtime Freddy, Funtime Foxy, Ballora, and Circus Baby are all welded into one singular body. So that's pretty much how it is now. So they don't all just share one mind, they're all basically talking to each other all the time. But yeah, I just wanted to take a moment to explain Ennard. Once Circus Baby explains her plan, the scooper is activated and Michael's guts are completely scooped out and he's left to bleed out on the floor. After Michael passes out from his injuries, Ennard managed to slip its way into Michael's body through his exposed wound and take control of his body as they planned from the start. After successfully stealing Michael's body, Ennard managed to roam Michael's hometown in his body, completely happy knowing that they were able to escape into the outside world. Unfortunately for them, this victory was very short-lived. As each day went by, Michael's body began to rot and decompose. This is most definitely due to the mutilation of Michael's body once it got scooped in that darn scooping room. This is why while Ennard was being all a happy-go-Jimbo in Michael's body was taking its natural course and just rotting away. Once Michael's body reached his limit, Michael regurgitated Ennard into the sewers and completely collapsed on the freaking sidewalk. But somehow, Michael was able to come back to life. I know you have questions, and I will answer them in due time. Trust me, this is going to make a lot of sense later on. Once Michael regained control of his own body, he had a lot to say, and I'm going to let you listen to it right here.
Father, it's me, Michael. I did it. I found it. It was right where you said it would be. They were all there. They didn't recognize me at first, but then they thought I was you. And I found her. I put her back together, just like you asked me to. She's free now. But something is wrong with me. I should be dead, but I'm not. I've been living in shadows. There is only one thing left for me to do now. I'm going to come find you. I'm going to come find you.
See, that's very freaking tragic. Michael has no idea why he's even alive right now, and now he's roaming the earth as a freaking husk of a human being. No organs, his skin is all rotten and purple. It's just really sad. And he like the part that really, saddens me the most is when he says he's living in shadows, knowing that he's basically saying that he can't live among normal society as a zombie, the way he looks. It's just very sad to hear. But moving everything else he said to the side for a moment, keep in mind what he said at the very end. I'm going to come find you. He wants to go find his father after he mysteriously went missing after instructing Michael to go down to that facility and free Elizabeth. An unknown amount of time passed after Michael vowed to find his father, and Fazbear Entertainment opened up another Fazbear location called Freddy Fazbear's Pizza Place. And Michael took the job here, not as a security guard, but as a manager. One part of his job, he'll be buying stuff for the location, chairs, tables, animatronics, and the other part of his job is taking old animatronics from outside of the building and bringing them in for salvaging. These are the instructions given to him by his boss. But these animatronics that Michael has to bring in the building are very familiar faces, so let's go through them. First, we have Lefty. Now, Lefty may seem like just your average Freddy Fazbear clone, but Lefty holds a lot of purpose, actually. Lefty is actually a containment animatronic, and what's inside of the Lefty is the puppet animatronic, who holds the soul of Charlie Emily, the daughter of Henry Emily, the co-founder of Fazbear Entertainment. Remember that incident I told you guys about, that took place at the very first Freddy Fazbear's establishment? That child that died at the side of the building was the daughter of Henry Emily, the best friend of WilliamAfton and the co-founder of Fazbear Entertainment. William was actually the one who killed his daughter, and once Charlie was locked outside of the building away from the other children, William snatched her up, took her to the side of the building, and killed her right there, and left her to rot. The security puppet animatronic was made to watch over Charlie, and once the security puppet found its way outside to search for her, the security puppet found Charlie when it was too late, and as one desperate attempt to protect her one last time, the security puppet wrapped itself around Charlie's body and fully malfunctioned outside due to the rain. This is what led Charlie to possessing the puppet for many years to come, and by the time Freddy Fazbear's Pizza Place opened up, the puppet found itself trapped inside of the Lefty animatronic, soon to be discovered outside of the alleyway. Now let's move on to Molten Freddy. Molten Freddy is Ennard after Ennard was regurgitated out of Michael's body. Remember when I said that Ennard was a hive mind? It basically had multiple consciousness inside of one body? I wasn't kidding about that. After Ennard was ejected out of Michael's body, Basically, the minds had a disagreement with Circus Baby and thought that Circus Baby / Elizabeth was a little too bossy, so they decided to eject her out of the amalgamation. Funtime Freddy ended up taking the lead, and now we have Molten Freddy, the face of Funtime Freddy, but the body and endoskeleton of all the Funtime animatronics combined. Just literally think of Ennard without Circus Baby. That's literally what he is. But you're probably wondering, what about Circus Baby? This is where we talk about Scrap Baby. I don't know how Circus Baby / Elizabeth ended up finding this body. This really looks like an older model of Circus Baby, but somehow Circus Baby was able to find a new body and found herself right outside of the establishment that is Freddy Fazbear's Pizza Place. By the way, if you couldn't tell from the eyes, she still harbors the soul of Elizabeth. Now let's move on to the final animatronic Michael finds outside of his workplace. This is Scrap Trap / WilliamAfton. Long story short, William ended up traveling back to the abandoned Freddy's location that Michael used to work at, and he dismantled all the 5 animatronics that contain the souls of the 5 dead children that he killed back in the 80s. Once the souls of these children manifested, they actually chased William to a back room, and once William was cornered, he tried to desperately scare them away by putting on the same suit that he wore when he killed them a long time ago. Unfortunately for William, the suit was very faulty and unstable to wear, and once the suit activated, it crushed WilliamAfton's entire body, and William bled out on the floor in front of his victims. After succumbing to his wounds and dying of his injuries, 30 years pass and WilliamAfton finds himself reawakening inside of the same Springlock suit that killed him. Despite William's soul being trapped in a mechanical prison, and his body rotting inside of it, William still had that insatiable urge to cause harm to other people, and eventually found himself outside of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza Place. But now that I have explained all the familiar animatronics rotting outside of the establishment, let's get into what Michael did at the rest of his time at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza Place. As Michael worked his night shifts at that place William actually says some things that completely gives away that we're playing as Michael himself.
You may not recognize me at first, but I assure you, it's still me.
Eventually, Michael ended up fulfilling his task and brought all those animatronics inside of the building for salvaging. The animatronics that Michael brought inside of the building unsurprisingly attempt to kill him, but before they could successfully do so, a familiar voice starts playing on the intercom.
Connection terminated. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Elizabeth, if you still even remember that name, but I'm afraid you've been misinformed. You are not here to receive a gift, nor have you been called here by the individual you assume, although you have indeed been called. You have all been called here, into a labyrinth of sounds and smells, misdirection and misfortune. A labyrinth with no exit, a maze with no prize. You don't even realize that you are trapped. Your lust for blood has driven you in endless circles, chasing the cries of children in some unseen chamber, always seeming so near, yet somehow out of reach. But you will never find them. None of you will. This is where your story ends. And to you, my brave volunteer, who somehow found this job listing not intended for you. Although there was a way out planned for you, I have a feeling that's not what you want. I have a feeling that you are right where you want to be. I am remaining as well. I am nearby. This place will not be remembered, and the memory of everything that started this can finally begin to fade away, as the agony of every tragedy should. And to you monsters trapped in the corridors, be still, and give up your spirits. They don't belong to you. For most of you, I believe there is peace, and perhaps more, waiting for you after the smoke clears. Although for one of you, the darkest pit of hell has opened to swallow you whole, so don't keep the devil waiting, old friend. My daughter, if you can hear me, I knew you would return as well. It's in your nature to protect the innocent. I'm sorry that on that day, the day you were shut out and left to die, no one was there to lift you up into their arms, the way you lifted others into yours. And then, what became of you? I should have known you wouldn't be content to disappear. Not my daughter. I couldn't save you then, so let me save you now. It's time to rest, for you, and for those you have carried in your arms. This ends, for all of us, in communication.
That voice you just heard was Henry Emily, WilliamAfton's old business partner and best friend, and co-founder of Fazbear Entertainment. Let's just say that Henry was the one who orchestrated this entire facade of a pizzeria. After William murdered his daughter, Henry actually went into hiding and spent many years in complete solitude. But as the years went on, Henry began to study the phenomenon that took place at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. He began to learn of how the children ended up possessing the animatronics. He began to learn about William's tricks, killings, crimes, and many other things. And while Henry wanted to take himself out of the picture, he couldn't let himself die knowing that William was still out there causing harm to others. So Henry created this plan: gather all of the remaining possessed animatronics in one place and burn the entire location, setting them all free once and for all. Before starting this plan, Henry created the Lefty animatronic to contain the puppet, who he knew his daughter was possessing. He just wanted to keep her in a safe place until he was able to fully enact his plan. Earlier I showed you that Henry had a blueprint of Lefty, but what I didn't mention is that Henry also has a blueprint of Molten Freddy. And you're probably wondering, Tay, why are you bringing up Molten Freddy out of nowhere? Trust me, this is gonna click with you soon enough. In this blueprint, Henry comments that due to the excessive remnant found in this structure, Molten Freddy basically fits under paragraph 4. Paragraph 4 is basically the classification Henry uses for animatronics that are found outside of the building. If they fit under paragraph 4 and they seem to have a life of their own, definitely bring them inside the building. And since Molten Freddy basically seemed to have a life of his own, that's definitely a classification that Henry would want inside of the building. Now let's go back for a moment. Take a look here. Notice how he says remnant. Now you're probably wondering, Tay, what the frick is remnant? Let me explain. Well, remnant isn't that very well explained throughout the series, but this is all I can tell you right now. Remnant is basically a very special substance in the FNAF universe, and this stuff is very powerful. It can seemingly give life to inanimate objects, and it was definitely used to fuel the Funtime animatronics. Molten Freddy is most likely a very sentient being because of the remnant he contains, and remnant may be the reason why the Funtime animatronics had the ability to think for themselves to begin with. Remember when I said the Funtime animatronics had a great desire to escape the place that they were being held in? Remnant may be very responsible for that. Now let me get into speculation territory here. The Scoober does have a remnant injector, and while remnant may be why the Funtime animatronics were acting the way they were acting, let's move on to how MichaelAfton survived that scooping incident back then. When Michael got impaled by that frickin' scooper, that scooper definitely injected some remnant into him, and that remnant may be just why he was able to survive and come back to life after Ennard escaped his body. But enough of that. Let's move on to where Henry is right now. Once Henry gave his speech, he set the entire building on fire, and he set the soul of Elizabeth free, he set the soul of Charlie free, and all the souls involved found peace, all except for the soul of WilliamAfton. WilliamAfton's soul did not find peace once it passed into the afterlife. It found nothing but eternal torture and suffering as punishment for everything he has done in his time of living. But knowing that William got what he deserved and he could no longer do any harm to anyone else, Michael was able to move on peacefully and accept his fate once the building was set on fire. Michael knows there's no life for him outside of this pizzeria, and he made sure that his last act of justice was to stop his father once and for all. But yeah, that marks the end of MichaelAfton's story, guys. And I gotta say, I felt like this was a little more difficult to explain than William's story. I don't know why. I feel like I had a harder time explaining Michael's story for some reason. You would think William would be the more confusing one, but no, it's freaking Michael, dude. I gotta say, Michael is a very tragic character. He's a very awesome main protagonist. His redemption arc was just so huge. Like, most of the games we're playing as Michael, even though the FNAF 3 Night Guard was like unconfirmed, like I feel like I wouldn't be surprised if that was Michael. You know, like we play as him so many times through the series, and he is such a great character. He redeemed himself. He did exactly what he set out to do. He is a good brother. You know, he made a mistake. He's not an evil guy. What he did to his brother wasn't right in the slightest, and I'm sure he knew that, which is why he wanted to do everything to correct that mistake, right his wrongs. And he fought tooth and nail until he was able to do exactly that. Michael is the undisputed GOAT of FNAF. His bravery when facing the animatronics is one thing, but his sense of justice to do what's right, that is a whole nother discussion. It was an honor being able to explain Michael's entire story, and I hope I made it easy to digest for the newer audience out there. You know, I just love Michael. I love him. He's great, and I'm pretty sure a lot of other people love him too. So with that being said, I've basically explained the entirety of the Soul era of FNAF, so you guys are probably asking, Tay, are you going to cover the digital era like Glitch Trap? That is a can of worms, dude. Yes, I do understand the lore on that side too, and I will make a video, but holy frick, that is such a can of worms, dude. Yes, I will. I'm just gonna throw it out there. I'm not gonna leave it up to speculation. I'm not gonna go like, hey guys, I'll make a new FNAF lore, but I can't tell you what. I'll just tell you what it is, bro. If I'm gonna explain any more FNAF story past this, it's the era where Glitch Trap comes in, and that's just a can of worms I'll gladly open for you guys. So yeah, with that being said, expect more FNAF videos from me. And thank you for watching. It was an honor having you for the ride, and I love you guys very much. So please take care of yourself. Oh, geez, I'm messing up my outro. I love you guys very much, and please take care of yourselves as always.